Welcome, geniuses. I'm Gene, your best buddy for A-levels. In this channel, we'll bring you to explore the secret formula behind success. Meet Mingjun. He comes from a town in Johor. He later went on to study A-levels in a college in a jungle with snakes and monkeys. That's a big step up. His favorite football club is Chelsea, and his favorite economist so far is probably one of his lecturers in university. Mingjun achieved the Top in Malaysia award for economics. Genie has invited him today to share his study tips and advice with us. This video will first talk about how he scored brilliantly for economics, and then we'll move on to his tips for his individual subjects.
Hi guys, I'm Mingjun. I'm currently studying PPE in the LSE. It's my pleasure to share my thoughts with you, wherever and whoever you are.
So MJ, how exactly did you manage to make almost no mistakes in your economics paper and achieve such a high score?
Before I go into the details on how to score well in economics exams, I think it is very important to clarify that there's no absolutely correct answers in social sciences, especially economics. And therefore, the first tip I would give is to accurately understand economics theory. By that, I actually mean you need to put in actual effort to understand the mechanisms behind every economics theory that you are taught. Now, I know it is very tempting to remember graphs and plots instead of really comprehending the economics theory, but there is no absolute guarantee that remembering graphs will give you a good marks. Instead, the comprehension and understanding of economics theory is much more important than that. Now, another thing that you should keep in mind though is economics, unlike other subjects, is a subject that concerns real-time event and real-time scenario. Now let me give you an example. If you are able to give me an understanding of how prices change in this COVID-19 pandemic, or how laborers are being laid off, or their wages are being decreased in this global pandemic, then I think you have a right understanding of economics as a concept and theory. Understanding and comprehension is really the only and the most fundamental way of understanding and scoring well in economics. Now, the second tip I would give though is to write well. It is one thing to understand and comprehending other economics theory, but it is another to being able to express and give out those ideas to the examiners and those who are listening to your exam script. And therefore, being able to write well is such a crucial skill that you need to obtain in order to score well in this economics exam. Now, what are the tips to write well? There are two. First, you should aim to write as much as possible when you're studying, and this writing should not be limited to just writing economic scripts. For example, you can write for some info packs for some conferences, or you can just write whatever writing that you could do. Another thing that you should do is to read more and more so that you are able to get how people write, and therefore those would actually increase your writing skills eventually.
Could you tell us a bit about the resources you used? For example, what kind of textbooks, reference books, ebooks, cookbooks, the whole shebang?
I mainly rely on the CAIE past years and model answers to revise on content. Although these past years do not offer complete sets of model answers, but it does help you in two major ways. First, it helps you to cover almost all the topics that you need to know and all the relevant ones, even those that are not very detailed in all the textbooks. Now, this could make sure that you do not miss out on any topics that you need to understand and comprehend, and therefore it is definitely a right method to study based on what is being covered in the past years. The second benefit of studying through these past years though is that you are able to repeatedly think and analyze on the theories and mechanisms being employed in answering all these past year's exams. I have a personal tip for using this economics past years, which is you do not have to write complete essays and every time you attempt on this paper, and instead you should just draft an idea or have a skeleton of answers on how you would approach all these answers and how you would utilize all the economics theory that you know in answering all the questions in those past years. Now, the benefit of this is you do not need to waste too many time in writing all the complete answers, but you are able to think and analyze again and again to understand and comprehend those theories well. Reference book wise, I recommend using the CIE textbooks by Susan Grant and Colin Bamford, and another one by Terry Cook. Now, I know that all these textbooks do not give a very detailed explanations on most of the theories that you are taught on, and therefore if you feel that there is an insufficient content in all these textbooks, I recommend using Google or Wikipedia just to gain a sufficient knowledge on what you need to know. And frankly, those online resources have more than enough that you need to know, and they really give you a very comprehensive account on those knowledge.
How did you discipline or schedule your revision? Or in general, what kind of revision method or style have you adopted?
I prefer a rotation method between different subjects when I study. Now, studying economics requires a lot of analytical thinking and reading, and consequently you should feel very exhausted after you have completed reading on some of the economics theories. Therefore, you should stop when you have come to this bottleneck where your brain is not properly functioning and can't really absorb new information or provide a valuable analysis, and therefore continuing studying is basically fruitless and will just provide you with nothing substantial. And therefore, to give you a personal tip, what I will do is I will study economics until I feel exhausted and my brain has simply come to a bottleneck, and I will proceed to mathematics to provide a new different set of thinking that will provide more energy for my brain to function in a different way, and therefore a more efficient way. It is very unwise to pursue a blindly balanced schedule on your study. What you should do actually is you should proportionally divide your schedule and the time that you will spend on each subject according to the level of effort that you need to put in to understand those subjects. To put in simple terms, the harder the subject is, you should put more time in your schedule for that subject itself, and therefore dividing your schedule in that way will provide you with a more efficient and effective way of studying, and therefore it will keep you more disciplined as well.
Do you take notes for economics? What kind of notes do you take, and how helpful do you think they are?
I do not keep a fixed set of notes for any subjects that I study, but that's just for my personal preferences. However, I do think keeping a systematic and organized set of notes do help you keep your study outcomes on track and being the most organized in terms of your studying. However, I'm very against this idea of having a shopping list of notes, which is you list down the points that you have learned and you just memorize those points. I think that is a very inefficient and ineffective way of studying. Instead, I would suggest that you draw mind maps and make connections between points. Now, it is easier to understand and remember those points when they are well connected and well organized, because they present an idea and concept as a complete set of idea. Now, eventually it will also make more sense when you come to revise all those ideas and concepts, because they are well connected and they make a very complete idea or concept. That is what economics is really about.
What are some last-minute tips you can give to students?
Do not overthink about your exams. If you have a full understanding of all those economics theories and mechanisms that you are taught on, there isn't much to worry about the night before the exam. Your performance in your economics exam it depends very significantly on your understanding and application of those economics theories. And therefore, if you have a well preparation before your exam, there isn't really much to worry about. In fact, worrying too much and overthinking about your exam would be extremely counterproductive, because when you get stressed out, you tend to forget some of the stuff that you have already remembered, and therefore it breaks your thought process in your exams, and eventually your exam result will just deteriorate as an unfortunate outcome. The second tip I will give though is you shouldn't worry too much about the details of your economics theory. You really should not aim to memorize or remember every single page or sentence of your economics textbook. What you really need to do is to remember all those crucial topics and crucial concepts that would eventually lead you back to your mind map. What I'm really trying to say though is there isn't much to worry about or to think about the day before your exam. If you have a well enough preparation way before your exam, there isn't much that you need to do the night before. Now, I do understand that people have different styles or ways of studying before exams. This is my suggestion, and I think if you are well prepared, There isn't much to worry about, and that's it. Get prepared and go into the exam hall with all your confidence. That's all.
How did you manage your time to ensure excellence in all your subjects?
I think time management is essentially built on self-confidence. To score well in exams, it is absolutely important to have very strong self-discipline. Now, specifically, I'm talking about minimizing distractions and having longer studying period. Now, distractions are mostly counterproductive to your study because of two reasons. First, distractions will let you give up most of your time that you should have used for your studying, and as an economics student, you should know all the opportunity costs that you are giving up because you are doing all these distractions. But more importantly though, the second reason is that when you are doing all these distractions, specifically all the entertainment, it occupies your minds, and therefore it makes your study less productive and effective because you will keep thinking about all those entertainment, make it movie or games or whatsoever. On the other hand, one does need to increase your study period during this exam period. Now, unlike all other normal revision that you can simply just put in some time to study, the intensity of studying and preparation for exam needs to be stronger and heavier than a normal revision, and therefore you need to study longer for those exams, and to make sure that you could make the most out of your study and revision. Now, if you have longer time of studying, it will enable you to have more opportunities and time period to find out all the blind spots in your studies and subjects, and therefore makes your studying more productive. In simple terms, have less entertainment and study more.
Any chance that you could get good grades with minimal studies?
Do not expect minimal studies. I think the real mindset that you should get for these exams and study is really to study more and practice more. I do not think there will be an easy way out to obtain knowledge and score well in exams.
Any revision tips and techniques for each subject?
As I've shared my revision tips for economics, I'll talk more about history and mathematics here. Firstly, unlike economics, history is more factual based and requires a lot more rigorous effort in memorizing historical events. However, I do think history is a extremely thought-provoking subject in which it requires you to analyze and exert your own value judgment in a lot of historical events. Now, the most important study tip for history, and I can't stress enough about its importance, is to have more conversation and discussion with your friends about historical events that you are taught on, and through those debates you will be able to form your own value judgment. Now, essentially, you should have formed your own conclusions and judgments on most of the historical events that you are taught on before you even go into your exam hall. So, to be a good history student, you should appreciate and discusses those debates on historical events, and therefore eventually form your own value judgment, and that is the fundamental of studying history. My way of studying mathematics, on the other hand, is rather more brutal and simple. In fact, just practice, practice, and practice. I remember saying mathematics as my intellectual stimulant, and it still is. It is because in applying all those mathematics, there is no one fixed or set or way of understanding a mathematics question. You simply need to apply all those mathematics theories or mathematics concepts on different possibilities and questions over and over again until you fully understand the mathematical concept itself. And therefore, I don't have much to add really. Studying mathematics is all about practice, practice, and practice.
Lastly, do you have any final words for our geniuses before we end today's video?
Achieving good results in A-levels is not impossible, and it is never too late to begin working on it. Now, I believe that if one wants to achieve success in life or in anything, one should first truly aspire to do so and put in the effort to achieve that. Countless instances in the past have shown us that no matter where you come from or no matter what kind of socio-economic background that you have, you will be able to succeed and excel in these A-level exams if you put in the actual and right effort to to succeed in it. In that, you do not need to be afraid of it, and you should just take a leap of faith and try your success. I hope my suggestions would ultimately help you in your way of success, but at the end of the day, I hope you should just use my suggestions as your guideline and you just achieve your own way of success, your own unique way of success. And for that, I wish you all the best.
That's all for today's video. If you're interested in more genuine sharing by other geniuses, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Ding dong. Genie will see you in our next adventure. Bye bye.